family goes back into the Illuminati all the way back to 1789.
His name is Doc Marquis. He claims to have been raised in a modern Illuminati family that dates back to the 1700s. As a child, he was made to practice black magic and witchcraft. He has acted as an expert on the occult for law enforcement and the FBI. Doc has been a Christian since 1979, but he says that part of his upbringing in a family that worshiped Lucifer was to be taught about the secret Illuminati symbols, and that understanding them begins with the Rothschild dynasty.
Now, this next symbol is the foulest and most evil of all symbols in the occult world. There is nothing that can even come close. It is known as the hexagram. It is the six-pointed star with a circle surrounding it. It is this symbol . It is this symbol that must be used during high ceremonial magic or high ceremonial witchcraft when you are summoning up demons to this plane of existence.
Many things in this journey through the last 13 years have blown my mind, and there's more to come. But grasping the fact that people were involved in human sacrifice ceremonies and stuff back in the ancient world, okay, get my head around that. The fact even that some really kind of imbalanced people could be doing it today, yep, get my head around that. What really hit me was the scale at which this goes on, and some of the most famous people on this planet are involved in it. And Satanism just a word for human sacrifice and other deeply dark rituals. Child abuse, like the stuff that comes to light in children's homes, which is the tip of a massive iceberg, and mind control, where they create mind-controlled zombies to carry out things like assassinations to hide the fact that it's really behind them, are all fundamentally connected. These guys are into some very dark, dark stuff. And when you realize, I'll say this, what they're into, it is no longer a problem understanding how these guys can send the troops in to slaughter thousands of people and have no emotional empathy with the suffering whatsoever, so much so, okay, that's done, now who next? Because what they're doing all the time, they do not have ability to empathize with the people who they are their victims. Now this is a place, a notorious place in America for those that have investigated this elite connection to satanic rituals and what have you, called Bohemian Grove. It's 75 miles north of San Francisco, and it's in 2,700 acres of redwood forest. Go down there, eventually you get to it. And every year in July, the elite of America, we're talking the Kissingers and the Rockefellers and the Bushes, all these people that control the media and the banking and the transnational corporations, they arrive at Bohemian Grove for a summer camp to let the cares of the world drop from their shoulders. Talking to people as I have, and some people have written books about their experiences, but of course they don't get out there in the mainstream at all, what goes on at Bohemian Grove among this elite is utterly, utterly staggering, but not staggering to me any longer.
Begone, dull care. Fire shall have its will of thee. Begone, dull care. And all the winds make merry with thy dust. Hail, fellowship's eternal flame. Once again, midsummer sets us free.
The Grove's gone public to a certain extent. They released this photo of a 1915 ritual. Here you have the hooded figure over the mock sacrifice. And here's a simulated hanging from 1908. In this picture you see a photo from 1909 with what looks like public officials in attendance. A black boy is tied down to some type of table, and around him we see people in strange garb. I'll leave it to you to figure out what they're doing. In 2004, the Grove released this photo from 1934 of members in hoods. The Canaanite deity Moloch was worshipped in Greece, Babylon, and then later in Europe. It is normally symbolized by a bull or an owl or some type of horned beast, and children are sacrificed to it. It is the precursor of all modern death cults. I was able to get out of the cult compound with this program cover from the Cremation of Care. And right on the front, where a child would be burned, they had photoshopped in the image of a skeleton burning in the flames.
This is Aaron Russo, a filmmaker and former politician. To his left is Nicholas Rockefeller of the infamous Rockefeller banking and business dynasty. After maintaining a close friendship with Nicholas Rockefeller, Aaron eventually ended the relationship, appalled by what he had learned about the Rockefellers and their ambitions.
I got a call one day from an attorney woman I knew, and she said, "Would you like to meet one of the Rockefellers?" I said, "Sure, I'd love to." And we became friends, and he began to divulge a lot of things to me. So he said to me one night, he said that there's going to be an event there, and out of that event, you're going to see, we're going to go into Afghanistan, so we can run pipelines from the Caspian Sea. We're going to go into Iraq to take the oil and establish a base in the Middle East, and we're going to go into Venezuela and try and get rid of Chavez. And the first two they've accomplished. Chavez they didn't accomplish. And he said you're going to see guys going into caves looking for looking for people that they're never going to find. You know, he was laughing about the fact that you have this war on terror. There's no real enemy. He's talking about how by having this war on terror, you can never win it because so it's an eternal war. And so you can always keep taking people's liberties away. And I said, how are you going to convince people that this war is real? He says, but the media. The media can convince everybody it's real. I mean, you know, it's just that you keep talking about things. You keep saying it over and over and over again, and eventually people believe it. You know, you created the Federal Reserve in 1913 through lies. You create 9/11, which is another lie. Through 9/11, then you're fighting a war on terror, and now all of a sudden you go into Iraq, which was another lie. You know, and it's all one thing leading to another, leading to another, leading to another. And then I said to him, what are the ultimate goals here? He said the ultimate goal is to get everybody in this world chipped with the RFID chip, and have all money be on those chips and everything on those chips. And if anybody wants to protest what we do or violate what we want, we just turn off their chip.
For the next hour or so, we'll be talking to Fritz Springmeier, author of Bloodlines of the Illuminati. Fritz, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure.
Fritz, your book has been out now for, actually it was republished, isn't that correct?
Yes, it's been reprinted twice. Yes.
Reprinted twice. And the title of the book is The Bloodlines of the Illuminati. What exactly is the Illuminati?
The Illuminati is the continuation of the mystery religions. There was quite a number of mystery religions in antiquity, and these mystery religions had councils that controlled them, and then there was a supreme council that operated clear from India to the British Isles that then coordinated all of these mystery religions, and that would be today what we call the hierarchy of the Illuminati.
So the Illuminati is basically just an extension of the mystery religion system, the whole type of philosophy.
Yes, it was a way of hoarding knowledge and power to a few special people.
And how do they hoard the knowledge?
Well, when I say knowledge, some of the knowledge is pseudo-knowledge, and some of the knowledge is actually scientific knowledge, which enabled, for instance, Christopher Columbus to be certain that he could sail across the Atlantic and hit land. He was associated with the Knights Templars, which is one of these secret societies associated with the Illuminati. So you've got different types of knowledge, but some of the knowledge is actually bogus. It's just claimed so that they can get people to join whatever mystery religion they're trying to offer.
Okay, Fritz. Now, why are families so important in this? It's obviously, you titled it Bloodlines, and that must have to do with the families. Why are they so important?
It has to do with how they pass power from one generation to another. It also involves the occult powers. They try to have full-blooded members. They believe that, at least the traditionalists within the Illuminati, which are the full-blooded members, they believe that to really be a powerful witch with all the occult powers that demonology gives you, that you have to be a full-blooded member who's got a genealogy that goes back many years.
So in effect, what you're talking about is basically generational Satanism.
Right, it's generational Satanism. And they have to operate also within bloodlines because of the way that they carry out their mind control. They make program DID, or what was commonly known for a couple hundred years as multiple personality disorder. They program their members with MPD, and in order to do that, you have to have someone who will disassociate when they're traumatized rather than die. There's three things you can do when you're severely traumatized. You can just curl up and die, or you can go crazy, or you can have the creativity and the dissociative abilities to splinter the mind into a multiple. And they want that ability. It's essential because the satanic rituals that they carry out, which are horrendous traditional rituals, blood sacrifices.
Also in the street plan of Washington, you find pentagrams. Symbols are not in themselves negative. The five-pointed star, the pentagram as we call it, is not in itself negative, just as the swastika in its original form is not negative. It was just a symbol of the sun. Other things too, probably. What the Nazis did, however, was take the swastika and turn it round to indicate the negative. It's what they call reverse symbolism. This is George Washington. In the last century, they decided they didn't have a decent statue of George, so instead of getting an American to produce one, they ordered it from Italy, from Florence. And when it arrived on the dockside, people were staggered, because here was George, the first president of the United States, depicted naked from the waist up with this cloth over his Bill Clinton's, and then pointing up one arm, pointing down the other. What's going on? Unless you realize where these people are coming from, it's inexplicable. Well, if you just hold that in your mind, arm up, arm down, naked from the waist up, and then Bill Clinton's covered in a piece of cloth, well, this is where it's coming from. This is the ancient depiction of the compilation of the negative force symbol that the Templars worshipped, or the high-level Templars worshipped anyway, called Baphomet. And this is why they depicted George Washington in that way.
In my book, there's a lot of genealogical research, you know, going back, Dick's family, my family, these heroic and amazing tales of people who went west. But one of the things I discovered is that Dick and Barack Obama are 8th cousins. What? Is that an amazing thing? Yes, if you go back 8 generations, really? They have a common ancestor.
These spiritual beings have been ruling this planet through very specific bloodlines, who long ago swore allegiance to these beings in exchange for wealth and power over the human race. In preparing the whole world for the ultimate spiritual deception, these evil entities have planned. These bloodlines are literally able to be traced by genealogists all the way back to ancient Sumer and Babylonia, and these human familiars or pets of the demonic angels have worshipped Satan and his minions under many forms from the time of Sumer right up to our present day.
Incest was practiced by ancient Egyptian royalty. Mothers married sons and brothers married sisters to keep the power and the money all in the family. Like their pharaonic ancestors, the British monarchy have a long history of incestuous inbreeding.
of an interbreeding between a non-human race, force, whatever, and humans, creating a hybrid bloodline, a fusion of the two DNAs. Even in Genesis, we have one version of this, but you find this all over the world, in every culture. As the Bible says in Genesis, there were giants on the earth in those days, or in the earth as it puts it, and also after that, where the sons of God came in unto the daughters of men, and they bare children to them. The same became mighty men which were of old, men of renown. These hybrid bloodlines, this interbreeding, produced the kings and queens and the elite royal families of the ancient world, where they claim their right, their genetic right to be the king or the queen or the leader because of their connection to the gods. And all over the world you find this. And what do we have today? We have the Queen as head of state of this country purely because of her DNA. In Sumer you find the same. Sumer, which became Babylon, which became Iraq, has ancient texts and tablets which describe the same recurring global story of this interbreeding to create this hybrid race. The hybrid race became known as the demigods, part human, part God, because of this interbreeding connection. This hybrid bloodline went off across the world, up into Northern Europe. It became the power behind the Roman Empire and the creation of the Roman Church, which became, of course, global Christianity. Much more about that as we go along. And everywhere it went, it became the royal bloodline, the elite bloodline, the one that became the leaders and the kings and the queens, and also the people in charge behind the scenes. And it interbred with other such bloodlines in Northern Europe to become the royal families and aristocratic families of Europe. And so today, these hybrid bloodlines are known as the Illuminati, the illuminated ones, and they're the ones that control the transnational corporations, governments, the banking system, the whole shebang that dictates and controls the direction of society.
Many of the United States presidents have blood relations with each other. The Bush lineage has blood ties to a great number of former presidents. George Washington, Millard Fillmore, Franklin Pierce, Abraham Lincoln, Ulysses Grant, Rutherford Hayes, James Garfield, Grover Cleveland, Teddy Roosevelt, William Taft, Calvin Coolidge, Herbert Hoover, Franklin Roosevelt, Richard Nixon, and Gerald Ford. Michael Tessarion points out in his work that Bush is closely related to every European monarch on and off the throne, and has kinship with every member of Britain's royal family. Bush's family tree can be documented as far back as the early 15th century. He has a direct descent from Henry III and from Henry VIII's sister Mary Tudor. He is also descended from Charles II of England. And we also find that George W. Bush is a direct descendant of Godfrey de Bouillon. Godfrey was the first king of Jerusalem after he recaptured it from the Saracens, which was the name for the Islamic faith during the Middle Ages. It is interesting to note that the current occupation of the United States in the Middle East was re-established by the same family, George Bush Sr. in 1991, and again by George Bush Jr. in 2003. George Bush Jr. is then found to be a cousin to both opposing candidates of his 2 terms in office, Al Gore and John Kerry. Democratic President Barack Obama also has blood ties with George W. Bush, as well as Gerald Ford, Lyndon Johnson, Harry Truman, James Madison, and the British Prime Minister Sir Winston Churchill. On the opposing side of the 2008 presidential ballot, John McCain is descended from Robert the Bruce, King William I of Scotland, and also Godfrey de Bouillon.
Let me take you through this, branch by branch.
The 101st Airborne Division, Air Assault.
Vice President Dick Cheney, the man who's only a heartbeat away from the presidency, is actually a blood relation. He's President Bush's 9th cousin once removed. Cheney's cousin Barack Obama is also Bush's 11th cousin and the 9th cousin of Brad Pitt. But we're only just getting started. President Lincoln was President Bush's 7th cousin 5 times removed, and Bush shared more than just a ballot with John Kerry. That's right, they're 9th cousins twice removed. There's also royalty in the Bush bloodline. Princess Diana was Bush's 11th cousin twice removed. And then there's this bombshell.
Happy birthday, Mr. President.
Sure, she may have been singing to JFK, but what about GWB? He is, after all, her 9th cousin 3 times removed. He's also related to Playboy founder Hugh Hefner, even Pocahontas, and Vlad the Impaler. Trace the family tree far enough, and you get Madonna, Celine Dion, and Tom Hanks.
Historically, a series of powerful invaders, the Philistines, Assyrians, Babylonians, and Persians, conquered the land of Canaan, which the Hebrews called Israel. The Hebrew tribes of Manasseh and Dan joined forces and became the Macedonians, or Macedonians. They fled to Greece with their gold and their riches. They wore white kilts like the Egyptian pharaohs, played goatskin bagpipes, adopted the Greek culture, and settled along the river Danube, which they named after the tribe of Dan. By 322 BC, their leader, Alexander the Great, reconquered Egypt and appointed his general Ptolemy I as the new Hebrew pharaoh of Egypt.
When I started researching the nature of this Orwellian manipulation, it became clear that there are a network of interbreeding bloodlines. What I call and what they call themselves, the Illuminati, which comes from the illuminated ones, have come through history. And as people began to reject overt, in-your-face dictatorship, they became the people who ran the system. You can look at the Bush family, and they are absolutely Illuminati. As presidents of the United States go, Father George Bush, I mean not the idiot's son, but Father George Bush, is higher in the Illuminati than most of them. The British royal family are one of the Illuminati bloodlines. It's all about genetics to these people. They're like horse breeders. Diana basically called herself the Windsor's brood mare. She was brought into the web merely to be the vehicle to give birth to William. What the Illuminati bloodlines really are. They are vehicles for other dimensional entities to manipulate this reality. These entities, many of which take a reptilian outer form, are manipulating this world through these Illuminati bloodlines. When I introduce something like these Illuminati bloodlines are based on a reptilian, non-human race, people find it fantastic. Of course it is, because it is so different from the reality and ways of the world that they have grown up believing in. The mainstream media, they want to report, because it's funny, that I am saying these bloodlines are reptilian. But when I'm talking about this stuff, when I try to get in more background, of course, the media's going, oh, no, mate, can't talk about that.
You are obsessed with genetics. Why do you think the UK government want everyone's DNA?
It's all about frequency compatibility, vibrational compatibility. If you are in a human body and you're vibrating to a certain frequency, and here someone wants to possess that body and it's vibrating to a very, very different frequency, it's very difficult to make that connection and therefore take over the mental and emotional faculties of that human body, if you like. If you can create a genetic hybrid, then that vibrational compatibility becomes very much closer and therefore very much more effective in terms of possession. So what has happened is that there's been this interbreeding which created these hybrid bloodlines, and this is the origin of the divine right to rule. The divine right to rule, what is that? It's the right to rule because of your bloodline, because of your DNA. So these hybrids became known, and they're known in history as the demigods, part human, part gods. So the gods were just other dimensional entities. And they became the kings, the queens, and the emperors of the ancient world, who claimed this right because of their special bloodline. And so in ancient China, the emperors claimed the right to be emperor because of their connection and their descendants from the serpent gods, etc. You find this all over the world. Now, as these bloodlines expanded across the world and interbred more and more, so this bloodline expanded its power. And just down the road from here, actually, from where we're sitting, probably 5 minutes in a car, is Buckingham Palace, and there sits the head of state in Britain in the 21st century, who is only there because of her DNA. It's still going on today. But what happened is, when royal control by royal dictatorship started to be resisted by the people, and the royal dictatorship started to fall, what happened is these bloodlines moved out of overt royal dictatorship. They're still in there with the Windsors in Britain and the Spanish royal family and all these others. But they moved then into what I call the dark suit professions, as they've become. They moved into politics, they moved into banking and business and all that stuff. They were in there anyway, but they moved in much more powerfully. So when you look at the transnational corporations and the major, most powerful and influential politicians and those that control the oil cartel and the drug cartel and all the rest of it, you're looking at this hybrid bloodline. Now, they have used things over the years, like the Mormon genetic library, and the genealogical library, to follow the bloodline. And if you do that, you know what you're doing, you know what you're looking for. You can tell who's got this hybrid and who hasn't, because there are those who are really the elite, who pass over the bloodline from generation to generation. You don't have to go looking for them, they know who they are. But there's others out in the population who also have this bloodline. In effect, it's a software program, if you want to see the body as a computer, as I do. And you want to know who they are, because if you've got this bloodline, it's like a computer program, or a computer, in the sense that you've got files on your computer, but they don't affect the screen, the reality, unless you open the file. So you go through life and these files don't affect you. But there are certain ways that you can open these files and then bring that perception, that attitude, that behavior